one.
Okay,
Yours.
I'm assuming that everybody's here because they want to learn how to prepare criminal complaints. This thing breaking up.
Just break it out. You put a little higher, bring that kind of out.
It's like when I move my head, I get a break. This is new equipment. Check it out. Okay. There's a lot more to criminal complaints than just writing out a docket.
Choppy. Choppy.
It's choppy.
Do you have another one? No, but can you bring it out farther? Maybe it'll break the system.
These things are not very good at all. Let me try that.
It sounded a little better when you were talking then.
Well, I've got the, yeah, but every time I move it.
Yeah.
Try this one.
Hey. Okay. How you doing?
Oh, Rosa, maybe. Oh, got one.
You got one?
Check, 1, 2. Check. That's really sensitive. Check, 1, 2.
Is that time?
We can hear you without one.
What's going on? If I try to talk for 2 hours, this voice, after that last brown recluse spider bite, I never really got my voice back. But I never had one to start with.
You have midnight spider?
Check.
That's pretty good right there. That's pretty good.
Okay. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing. Can you hear me?
Pretty good.
Okay. These things are really sensitive. Okay. Criminal complaints. It's an art form. Anybody can write a criminal complaint, go down and try to file it. But it will do no good unless you have a plan. In order for criminal complaints to have any import at all, you need to really start out from a certain position, decide what you want to do. Bring me the next. Yeah, stop complaining. There's a difference between complaining and criminal complaints. Most of what I see people are writing is just complaining. Oh, that dirty rotten scoundrel, he did this, he did that, he did the other. Can you tell if I'm in front of that one?
You are.
Yep.
Sure. You are.
Well, you are.
You are.
In front of,
I see it.
I
Okay.
got it back, so you can walk over.
Oh, okay, good. Because last time I was moving out.
Yeah, it was up a lot closer, but now you can walk over.
Okay, good. Okay. If you just write down stuff and tell them what the dirty rotten scoundrel did, and that's a complaint. A criminal complaint is something entirely different. The only thing a judge can hear are facts and law. I'm getting ahead of myself. Drop me down one. Okay. If you're going to start filing criminal complaints, the first thing you want to figure out is what do you want? Why are you filing criminal complaints? What is your intended ultimate outcome? Everything starts with the end result. If you don't have an end result clearly in mind, it's a very good chance you'll want to wind up somewhere other than where you expected to be. Now, I just filed a lawsuit against the state of Texas. I have a very clear outcome in mind at the end of the day. And in writing the complaint, that dictated everything that I did. Now, I had about 100 rabbit holes I could have ran down. I got all this dirty, rotten, lousy stuff they did that I could have raised complaints about. But I had an outcome. The outcome is I want the state of Texas to be forced to take every person arrested directly to the nearest magistrate. So, the only complaints I filed revolve around not taking someone to a magistrate and the circumstance that got the state to a point that they don't do that. If you don't have something like that clearly in mind, anybody here after the school board? I can tell you the school board members are low-hanging fruit. They're third-rate, low-level politicians that nobody cares about. So when you start running the routine on them, they'll get real excited real fast. But there's a lot more to filing complaints than just moving around public officials. I know when you're outside looking in, it looks as though these people are really hard to reach. And you come into the school board and you complain. You just rant and rave. When I go to the school board, last time I went to a school board, they were, if someone acted out in class, instead of disciplining them, they'd call the police and ask the police to take a complaint against them. And I read the code to the school board and said, here's the deal. If you attempt to avoid the TEA discipline reporting requirements by calling the police and ask the policeman to file a complaint against a student, I will take the teacher, the sheriff's deputy, and you to a grand jury, and you can explain it to a grand jury. The only one who can write the criminal complaint and expect the one to be arrested is the teacher. So if the teacher feels like a complaint is necessary, the teacher can troop his behind down to the JP and swear out a criminal complaint. If it's not important enough for him to do that, it's certainly not important enough to call the police. So there won't be any more of that. And there wasn't any more of that. I was giving them facts and law. That's all they can hear is facts and law. Doesn't matter how rotten what they're doing is. If you can't give it to them in facts and law, they can't hear you. I'm trying to keep my place this time. Okay, what do you, in order to do this right, it's going to take some dedication. This is not something where you just go write a complaint, send it in, and expect magic to happen. So you have to be willing to give something up. This takes work. It takes some study. We can change things, but we have to understand how things work. I have a story here I found in the Vegas by John Fowler that I think you'll find interesting. Once upon a time, there was a prince who believed in all things but three. He did not believe in islands, he did not believe in princesses, and he did not believe in God, because his father, the king, had told him such things did not exist. So one day he left his land and went to the next land. And there from the shore, from every shore, he saw beautiful islands and strange and beautiful creatures who he dare not name. And then he came across a man on the shore and asked him, are those real islands all genuine and authentic islands, and those strange and troubling creatures, all authentic and genuine princesses. The prince said, well, then God must also exist. I am God, said the man with a bow. The prince returned to his land, approached his father, and said, Father, you have deceived me. I have seen islands, I have seen princesses, I have seen God. The king was not impressed. He said, when you saw God, was he dressed in evening clothes? First he said, there are no princesses, there are no islands, and there is no God. But I saw God. When you saw God, was he in evening clothes? Yes, he was. Were the sleeves of his coat rolled back? The prince remembered that they had been. His father smiled and said, you have been deceived, my son. That was not God. That was a magician. So the prince went back to the next land and once again came upon the man in evening clothes. And he told him, my father told me who you are. You're not God. He told me you deceived me. You are not God. You're just a magician. The man in evening clothes rolled the sleeves of his coat back and said, yes, I'm only a magician. But it's you who have been deceived. In your land there are many islands and many princesses, but you can't see them because you're under your father's spell. The prince pensively returned home. Father, is it true that you're not a king and only a magician? The king smiled and rolled back the sleeves of his coat. Yes, my son, I'm only a magician. Then the man on the other shore is God. The man on the other shore is another magician. The prince said, I can't take it. I will kill myself. The king, by magic, caused death to appear to the prince and beckon to the prince. The prince shuddered and remembered the beautiful islands and the beautiful princesses and said, very well, I can take it. His father said, you see, my son, now you too begin to become a magician. We can change. We do it all the time. I do this, I talk to people a lot and try to help them find a frame of reference. Oh, I thought she was doing something now.
Hold it out.
Okay,
Can I-
I'm moving around too much.
Can I turn down there's like bass or something?
There's a line.
Let me mess with it.
There's a lot of,
Top button
Top
on the back.
Okay.
Just hold it a little further from your mouth.
Top.
Bass. Here we go.
Check. Very top, yeah, check.
Wind snow echo. Full treble.
Check. For my voice, you probably should turn the bass all the way off.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, is that better?
Hold it out just a little tiny bit.
Is it too
Too
loud?
close?
That's about right.
Is that better? Okay, because every time I moved it, I was blanking out. Okay, I was overmodulating. Okay,
Is that better?
Talk down, talk.
testing, 1, 2, 3, testing.
that's a lot better right there.
Okay, good.
All right.
Even I can hear you. Oh, wait. I had this thing sit on wife mode.
Oh, there you go. I remember that.
She never finds that as funny as I do.
A magician.
Anyway, we can change everything. It's not magic, but it'll seem like magic. Do you know who you are? Most people don't. Most people think they're citizens in a republic. Humans have a tendency, let's see if it's here. Humans, unlike tigers, bears, and eagles, humans herd. We gather together in groups, like this one. We find safety in numbers. That's a good thing and it's a bad thing. Herds are always prey. And we need to stop being prey. My favorite animal is the bald eagle. Bald eagle's not the largest predator bird on the planet. The condor is bigger, but he's not really a predator bird. He's a carrion eater. The other one that's bigger is a harpy, and all he does is eat fish. Even the bald eagle has 0 predators. Nothing preys on a bald eagle. They take on everything. I'm hoping that I can move people from being a part of the herd to be more like an eagle. I'm not coming, when I go to the school board or to the police, I'm not coming there as a citizen. I'm not coming there as part of a group. I'm coming there in my singular capacity. I am the master of my servant. And my servant will obey my law, and that's all there is to that. I will not be reasonable, I will not be understanding, and I will not negotiate. You're going to follow my law. The way we do that is filing artfully crafted criminal affidavits. I was in Denton County, and I filed some criminal complaints with Judge Ship. Supposed to be the meanest judge in the district. That's the one I wanted. Filed the complaints with him, and we had a little back and forth, and he was not a happy camper. But I kind of trapped him. I was in work clothes. I was in a shirt I'd been welding in, had big holes in it. So I was kind of raggedy that day. And he said, Mr. Kelton, don't you own a suit? I said, yes, Your Honor, that's kind of on 35. Well, why aren't you wearing one of my corporate? Well, Judge, I'm here on this approval. And I only got one. And it was a motion hearing, so there's a lot of lawyers sitting out there. And one of them knew me, so he told all the rest of them to wait. He said, this is going to be fun. So I said, I only got one. I didn't want to be confused with all these suits. They got lots of scruples, Judge, and all of them for sale or rent. The judge put his head in his hand and he said, oh, geez, I walked right into that one. And I said, yes, Your Honor, I want to thank you. Why would you thank me? I've been waiting a long time to deliver that line. I got you there. But I meant exactly what I said. When I come after a jurisdiction, I've got one scruple. I've got one purpose. And I won't be strayed from that purpose. Go to the next slide. Okay. Before we start writing criminal complaints, something we need to understand about the system. I tell people when they're trying to file suit or something, you can never expect to win your case simply because you have the law and the facts on your side. To think so is naive. It is not that way now. Never has been that way so long as we've had human beings as judges. You can expect to win your case if you have the politics on your side, and all politics is local. Now, when I say that, it sounds kind of frustrating and depressing, but it's not. It's only a problem if you don't understand that everything is political. So once you figure out who your target is, say in this case he's after the school board. In your case, you're after Tarrant County.
Oh, yeah.
Me too. Tarrant County's on my hit list. Once you figure out who your target is, now you need to look at their position in the political hierarchy. When it comes to politics, you are absolutely the most politically influential person in the room. Why? Because you're nobody. You're not a judge, a prosecutor, a bailiff, a clerk. You're not any of those things. They're all public servants. You're the master of those servants. They forget that at their professional peril. And they always forget. They spend so much time dealing with people that don't have a clue. When you come in there, they don't know how to deal with you. Bonnie had a case in Randall County, and I went in and took a criminal complaint against her judge to another judge, Judge Bosworth. He should have knew better. About 2007, I bushwhacked him in front of his own grand jury with criminal complaints against the district attorney. The grand jury comes in and they read the true bills to the court, and the clerk makes notes of the minutes of the court. Well, they did that, they read them all, and I'm sitting out in the gallery. Nobody else. I don't think they've ever seen anybody out there before. So the grand jury's all looking at me, wondering what the heck did he do out there? Well, they finished reading the true bills, and Judge Bosworth said, "Does the grand jury have any further business?" And the foreman said, "No, Your Honor, we do not." And I stood up in the courtroom and said, "Yes, you do." And the judge said, "Well, who are you?" I said, "Well, I'm Randy Kelton." Now, the prosecutor and the assistant prosecutor are sitting there kind of ducking and dodging, because they know exactly why I'm there. He said, "Well, what business do you have with this grand jury?" And I could have told him, "I have business with this grand jury, and it's none of yours." But I had plans for him. So I said, "Well, Judge, I've got some criminal complaints against some public officials." "Well, what officials are those?" "This district attorney sitting here, and this assistant district attorney, her name was Lisa Wyatt. And you, Judge." And when I pointed to him and said that, he just froze. And he stayed froze. I said, "Your Honor, I have business with this grand jury." And he just sat there. Finally, I just turned to the grand jury and talked to him and told him that I started out with a minor little technical criminal complaint. And your prosecutor here decided to violate Article 2.03 Texas Code of Criminal Procedure and shield that person from prosecution in violation of 3805 Penal Code. It started with just one little complaint. I picked up a 3-inch folder and said it turned into this. Well, they decided to hear me. I presented the district attorney to the grand jury myself. Now, who am I? I'm nobody. Only we can do that. Prosecutor thinks you only get to the grand jury by way of the prosecutor. No, that's not how it works. The prosecutor gets it last. And in Texas, we have the best body of law of any state in the union. We have a special statute for that. When you file a criminal complaint against a public official, it's inappropriate to ask the prosecutor to prosecute somebody he works with. And the legislature understood that, so they fixed it. Article 2.01 Texas Code of Criminal Procedure says, "It shall be the duty of the prosecuting attorney not to secure conviction, but to ensure that justice is served. He shall not secret witnesses or evidence that will show the innocence of the accused or mitigate the guilt of the accused." Well, that's nice, high-minded rhetoric, but it really doesn't tell him to do anything specifically. Article 202, it says, the county attorney handled this kind of stuff, the district attorney handled this kind of stuff. Sorry about that, I got that off my camera. The district attorney handled this kind of stuff. 2.03, the first one that tells the prosecuting attorney to do a specific thing. When a prosecuting attorney is made known in any manner, and I'm paraphrasing here because it's kind of long and complex, is made known in any manner that a public official has violated a law relating to his office, he shall reduce the complaint to an information and submit it to the grand jury. There is no discretion in there anywhere. And I've had a number of prosecutors read it, and they all said the same thing. No discretion. So, what we do is give them opportunity to screw up. I have a set of rules that we use. Let me make sure I stay on course. Okay. first thing you want to do when you're going after somebody, you want to find, they tell you be careful about poking the bear. Well, we want to poke some bears, but we want to poke the biggest bear in the room. Who in the hierarchy is the highest level official you can get to? Let's take the school example. You've got the school board, and they think they're pretty important. And then you got the president of the school board, and he thinks he's pretty important. But they're nothing. The superintendent, he is everything. So you want the superintendent. That's the guy you want to get. You start poking the superintendent because of what the school board is doing, you accuse the superintendent of failing to properly train the school board and hold him responsible for what the school board did. He's going to say, well, I didn't do anything. We know. You should have. This is what you get for failing to perform a duty you're required to perform. And in the process, allowing these school board members to deny the citizens and force that's true or enjoyment or right. I think it's best to find a guy or a girl who is totally innocent, has nothing to do with what's going on. We got an IRS agent fired in Fort Lauderdale. She was after one guy and couldn't get to him, so went after a friend of his that had a chiropractic clinic. They went in and raided his clinic with guns in their hands. So, got out the manual, looked up the section on IRS raids, and it said that an IRS agent can only draw a weapon when they have authority or cause to draw and discharge. So, my question is, who authorized this raid? Who is the highest guy that had it sign off on it? And it was 6 levels up. I filed criminal charges against him with the Fort Lauderdale grand jury. Oh, the district attorney got all excited about that, or the U.S. attorney, and called me and told me if I attempted to approach the grand jury again, he would charge me with jury tampering. I told him, knock yourself out. You charge me with jury tampering, I'll charge you with obstruction. We see how this works out for you. Right. We fired the IRS agent the next day. Because generally the ones you are dealing with are low-hanging fruit. The school board members, they are all the way at the bottom. You start hammering the ones on up, then the superintendent and the judge of the court, of the county commissioner's court.
Whitley.
He's ultimately the big guy.
He's
Because
leaving though.
unlike what the governor would have you think when he told the counties they had to close the schools, no, these schools don't belong to the governor, they don't belong to the state. They belong to the county. We county members pay for those schools, not the state. So they don't have a thing to say about it. So find the highest guy you can have. The judge of the court of the commissioner's court, he probably don't even know anything about it. He's there handling his business, and you start hammering him. Then you create politics. Politics is where the power is. You will never get them to be afraid of you. What you get them to be afraid of is the political cannon fodder you will create for their political enemies. Now, when I say that everything's political, it sounds horrible at first. But once you realize you're the most powerful one in the room, it is not difficult at all. They're having problems with a improper prosecution. Sharon Wilson, I interviewed her on my radio show when she was running for office. She's the one anybody know that now. When she got into office, my picture was hanging up in the grand jury room with a sign that said, if you see this man, call security. I had hammered him a time or two. So find the highest one you can and hammer that one. That'll bring you downhill. Okay, you got a specific hierarchy. You got to have a plan. Know where you're going before you start. Know where you're going before you start. That will dictate every step you make. And what it does to the other side is they can't predict you. They can figure out what you're doing. They don't know what you're going to do next. I have a rule. Never give fair warning. Fair warning's for chumps. Bushwhacks, way better. Never go in there and say, oh, I got these rights, I got that right, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that. When you do that, they're going to interpret everything you say as a threat. And they're going to accuse you of being agitated. Once they accuse you of being agitated, the courts just accept anything they say. So, you want to do that to them instead. Never give fair warning. Never give legal advice. Set them up. Bushwhack is so much better. Arlington, Texas. I want to see these 10 case files in the municipal court. And the clerk said, well, are you an attorney? Oh, no. I sleep well at night, keep my hands in my own pockets, thank you very much. Well, are you the accused? Oh, no, I'm a good guy, I never do anything wrong. Well, if you're not the accused or the attorney, you can't see these. Oh, wow. You shouldn't have said that. This big old bailiff standing back there, arms crossed, surveying his domain. Hey, you, come here. Well, he didn't like that. And that was the point. I wanted you PO'd. Because the more angry they are, the more stupid they act. So he come over, can I help you? I said, yes, you can. Arrest that woman. Well, why did I arrest the clerk? Class A misdemeanor, official oppression, criminal violation 39.03 Texas Penal Code. Never make a proactive statement of law out of your own mouth. She committed a crime. She violated the law. Nah. She violated 39.03 Texas Penal Code in that she failed to perform a duty she was required to perform, and in the process denied me the full free access to her enjoyment of a right. When I was at Randall County trying to get them to arrest Bosworth for not taking my criminal complaints.
Johnson County.
I'm sorry, Johnson County. I'm thinking of Randall County. I hammered them too. But Johnson County. Talked to I asked the bailiffs to call 911. They're standing there yakking, and I walked up and they said, can I help you? I said, looks like you guys are having a pretty good day. And they said, yes, we are. So well, I'm about to fix that. But I need you to call 911, get me an officer out here to arrest Judge Bosworth. Well, that got their attention. And instead of doing that, they called in the sergeant. This is a female sergeant. She looked very professional. She looked military. Short, cut hair, weight, her stance. She looked like all business. I told her I wanted her to arrest the judge. Well, we're Vegas. We don't do that. Are you a certified peace officer in the state of Texas? She said, yes, I am. Then you do that. Well, what did he do? He failed to perform a duty he is required to perform, and in the process of not being full and free access to her enjoyment of rights. She said, oh, don't give me all those statutes. I just need the elements. I just gave you the elements. And she's in front of all of her other people. They're watching this. She's looking at them, and I'm stepping on her. But to her credit, she gathered up her professionalism. She said, well, Mr. Kelton, you should take this to the sheriff's department. I did. Aren't you a sheriff's deputy? Well, yes, but we're bailiffs. That's right. This happened in the courthouse. Well, Mr. Kelton, I would rather you take that to sheriff's department. I don't care what you would rather. So I need you to go get me a voluntary statement form. Because she was doing pretty good. I was pressing her pretty hard. So I let her off the dime. She went to get me the form, and I turned to these other bailiffs and I said, she handled me really well. And I like to be handled well. You could learn from her. She came back and said, Mr. Kelton, would you please take these to the sheriff's department? It would facilitate things. And get you off the dime, and get me off the dime. Fair enough. whenever they ask me to do anything that's reasonable, I try to be reasonable. When they press on me, I try to lead them down the garden path. Give me a reason that she figured it out. Give me a reason to file against you. Go ahead. Once you shift gears and realize everybody answers to you, everything changes in how you do things. You don't get upset anymore. Never ask a public official to do anything that you actually want them to do. Because you never ask a public official to do anything that the law does not compel them to do. So when they don't do it, boom, you get land on it. No fair warning. Don't tell them beforehand. This bailiff in Arlington, he said, well, I can't arrest the clerk. I said, sure you can. Just throw a cuss on her and drag her off to jail. You don't have far to go. You got one right in the basement. And he said, well, I'm not going to arrest the clerk. And then first he asked me, why would I arrest the clerk? I said, well, if she failed to perform a duty she is required to perform, she wouldn't show me these records. He said, are you the accused? Oh, no. Are you an attorney? Oh, no. I sleep well at night. He has my own pockets. Well, then you can't see those. Wow, you should have said that. I took out the cell phone. He said, you can't use a cell phone in here. I said, are you going to interfere with the 911 call? Always do your homework. Do you know what the penalty is for interfering with the 911 call? It's a third-degree felony in Texas. 5 to 10. So go ahead, interfere with me. We'll see how that works out for you. But the clerk told him, I'll just leave him alone. He's trying to get you to do something so he can try to get you arrested. I said, sorry, ma'am, too late for that. I dialed 911 and asked someone to come out and arrest both of them. It was a circus. We had about 30 cops out there. If you go to Arlington, Texas, and ask to see a whole stack of criminal complaints, they're going to go get them. They're not going to ask you any questions. They're not going to do a song and dance. Always, it is my purpose to fix something. Like the school board issue. They're trying to force vaccinations on our children. Want to fix that. Don't care about the school board. Don't care if I get them indicted or not. That means I don't care if I do, I don't care if I don't. They're not my target. If it takes getting them indicted, if it takes suing each one individually in their personal capacity, I'll do that until I get what I'm after. And when I get what I'm after, I step away. You do that, the next time you show up, they know you give this guy what he wants, he's going to go away and leave you alone. If you don't, he's not ever going to go away. I've been 30 years trying to get public police officers, when they arrest someone, to take them directly to the nearest magistrate. And I hadn't done it. So it took a long time to get all my research in place. They recently arrested me and held me for 26 hours and released me on a $500 bond. I filed a motion to dismiss, and the prosecuting attorney dismissed it right away. He couldn't get it dismissed fast enough. Sorry guys, too late. I just sued Wise County, Texas, and Travis County. I sued the Chief Justice of the Texas Supreme Court in his personal capacity.
Nice. Nathan Hecht?
Hatch, yes, Nathan Hatch.
He's on my list of people to sue too.
I sued Sharon Keller, presiding judge of the Court of Criminal Appeals,
Was that recently on Hecht?
last week.
Oh, okay.
I sued the district judge. I didn't sue the county judge, but then
Where did you sue him? Was
He
it,
died.
Was it in federal court? Or?
I sued him in Travis County in state court.
Oh, okay.
State court first.
Is it?
Everything is a setup.
Because supposedly the federal court has exclusive jurisdiction over those public officials, and there's a code for that.
State has original jurisdiction. And I won't get to the feds until I get the states to screw up everything. I've done told these guys, look, I'm gonna sue you, but I'm really not after you. I'm just using you guys as a crash dummy to get me to the feds. Well, then why are you suing us? Well, I need to get the state to screw up everything that they can, so that when I go to the feds, I can say to the feds, I exercise every possible remedy available to me in the state. And the entire state of Texas, from the highest judges to the lowest judges, to the police, to the prosecutors, everybody violated law. My suit was for $400 million. This is how I get there. I accused the prosecutor of orchestrating an ongoing criminal conspiracy. You'll recognize this. Where he has been directed by the legislature in their wisdom, they decided that since we have learned counsel in public employ, it would be a good idea for us to have that learned counsel give legal advice to the police at lower courts. Well, that wasn't just a bad idea. That was a horrible idea. And you could expect it to lead precisely to the disaster we have right now. Do you really expect the prosecutor to advise the police and lower courts in practices and procedures that will make his life a living hell? No, and I'm not saying there's any bad guys here. I'm not saying anybody did this on purpose. It doesn't work well to chase bad guys. It works well to chase policy. Hey, don't blame me, I'm not after you. Yeah, I'm sorry you got in the way. But life is tough to deal with it. I was in Johnson County and went to see an examining the morning hearings, and this lieutenant told me that the judge said that I couldn't watch the hearings. I said, sure I can. It's the law. Well, we hold them deep in the jail. Okay, hold them somewhere else. You got a courtroom right here. Hold them here. He said, the judge said it's her courtroom and you're not coming in it. Lieutenant, you need to explain to her that this is my courtroom, and I very generously allow her to administer it in accordance with my law. So what I need you to do is I need you to go back there and arrest her. Well, I can't arrest the judge. You sure can. Just throw the cuffs on her, drag her off to jail. Oh, you don't have far to go. You're already in one. Oh, well, I can't do that. I said, look, Lieutenant, life is filled with little decisions we all get to make some. Your turn. You're going to perform your duty as prescribed by Article 2.13 Code of Criminal Procedure, or are you going to shield that judge from prosecution in violation of 3805 Penal Code? Now it's a felony. It's your call. Well, I'm not going to arrest the judge. I said, okay, but you got to know I'm going to be making some really ugly criminal accusations against you, but don't take it personal, I'm not after you. He said, you're going to file criminal charges against me and you're not after me? Yeah, that's about it. Well, why me? He said, first he said, well, who are you after if you're not after me? I'm after the district judge. Well, then why are you filing against me? Well, you're convenient. How do you deal with someone that's using you as a stepping stone? The more you can give them that idea, the more vulnerable they're going to feel. And the first time you give the big bear a way to throw the little bear under the bus for you to get you off of him, that's what he's going to do. At least that's what the little bears think is going to happen. So I completely lost my place. I even put him to sleep.
I'm wide awake, I got you.
We were sitting here watching these people. That's the kind of guys we are. Okay, go to okay, now we're going to get to how to write it. We got to how to think about it. Find the highest guy that you can go after and hammer him for what the guy on the bottom did. And if the highest guy didn't know anything about it, oh, that's even better. Because he's going to be righteously indignant. And he's going to be crawling down the tree, chewing out everybody in the way. Okay, once you got that, now how do we do criminal complaints. First thing you need is to write a timeline. You don't know what happened. Yeah, you were there, and you think you know what happened, but all you know is what got your attention. When I look at these, I look for a lot of stuff you don't even know anything about. So there's no way you can tell me the whole story. So first thing you do is write a timeline. This happened on this day. This happened on this day. This happened on this day. No explanation, no argument, just a timeline. What this is for is revivification. We're going to go in and we're going to extract memory you think you forgot. You think you forgot it because you weren't paying direct attention to it, but it's in there. So once you build the timeline, you let it set for a few days, then you go back down it a second time. And then you'll start remembering pieces that went in between. And once you've got as much as you can do, then someone like me, someone separated from the circumstance with some legal knowledge, you want them to go through it. And I'll go down it and I'll say, well, they violated this law right here, this law right here. Finding laws they violated, piece of cake. They will give you more criminal accusations to make than you can possibly ever get to. That's why you need a goal, a place that you're going. That's going to help you select out from all the plethora of possibilities those criminal complaints that lead you to your outcome. Now, every step we take here, each one builds on the one before it. Once you have your timeline complete, now I want you to tell me a story. Tell me the whole story. Just fill it in with everything. Don't hold anything back. Once I have the whole story, I'll go through it, or someone like me, someone who is not directly engaged in your circumstance. Best to have a 13-year-old look at it. When you write a legal document, write for 13-year-old. Avoid legalese like the plague. Never use pronouns. Absolutely never use acronyms. This goes to something we won't have time to get here today, but it goes to mental flow. You want your reader to be able to move from one thing to the next without having these questions, without big gaps missing in between. So work from your... We still remember everything. We have it all in order in here. We just don't have direct conscious access to it. A timeline will help you go in and pull out those details that tie everything else together. We'll blame this on him.
Mm-hmm. He fell asleep at the job.
It's recording now.
Okay, but he's the one. It's all his fault. We're guys. We never take responsibility. Now, I'm not going to mention that I was working over there, and no way I am. Anyway, okay. This helps you get everything in line. And look down your timeline and build a story that goes directly to the outcome that you're after. No matter how ugly something seems, if it doesn't lead you towards your intended outcome, don't put it in there. I didn't go after this bailiff for breaking that over. He didn't mean to. He shouldn't have pushed me as I stepped out the door, but I had kind of pushed him over the edge. I kind of have a way of doing that. And that's what got me arrested the last time. I pushed the bailiff over the edge. So I didn't want to ruin his career. Or he told me that he wanted to know what my business was. He knew I was there to file criminal charges against the district attorney with the grand jury. And I told him, I have business here today and it's none of yours. Well, I'm the court security officer and the court bailiff, and I want to know what your business is. Well, if you're the court bailiff, you troop your behind on into that courtroom and be a good little bailiff. You're dismissed. Well, he didn't take that too well. So I took part of the blame for that one. But this time, I get to drag that back in. This time, that became important. This time, they arrested me to keep me from filing criminal complaints against them. This time, I got to use it because it fit. I only use what leads me toward my intended outcome. I assure you, you will have far more things you can complain about than you can ever get to. So once we have our storyline down, now we know where we're going. Then we go back down it and pull out all the criminal complaints. And that's it if you're going criminal. If you're going civil, then you pull out all of your claims, causes of actions, tort actions. You pull all of those out. And then you create an actual claim. In civil, it would be causes of action. In criminal, you create a criminal complaint. The only thing the judge can hear are facts and law. You give him anything else, you may tell him the most compelling story, and he may agree with you. Oh, this is horrible, this is wrong. But he can't rule in your favor if you don't give him the facts and the law as it applies to those facts. He has two duties. And when I get in front of a judge, if he wants to try to exercise a duty that doesn't involve the facts and law, we got a problem. Now we're going to go to the woodshed, and I'm going to see if I can't get him a new attitude. That's what I did to Bonnie's judge. She decided to have herself an attitude, and I decided to adjust it for her. And we can do that. But facts and law, so when you write it, facts and law. I just had someone send me a document that he's filing in a criminal case, and he said, what do you think? Trash. Worthless, whining, complaining. You're telling all these horrible bad things the judge did, and the police officer did, but you did not give any facts and no law as it applied to those facts. So the judge can read all this and agree with you, but he has no power to rule in your favor.
So did the judge get arrested in her case? That female judge? Did the female judge get arrested?
No, I didn't get back to it. I gave the complaint to the judge's bailiff, and I had it bound, and on the front of it, it said, some magistrate. Well, what 2.13 Texas Code of Criminal Procedure says is it tells every peace officer he hasn't made known them that a crime's been committed, he is to present a complaint to some magistrate. Doesn't say anything about the prosecuting attorney. Everything in Texas directs a complaint to some magistrate. So I went down there and gave him one that they were having motion hearings, and that's the perfect time. It's always lots of breaks. So the judge is in his chambers and some lawyers floating around, and I went up to the bar and I pointed at the bailiff, you, come here. They always hate that. He came over, I need to speak to the clerk. Well, what's it about? Here with this, have her give it to the judge. Takes it to the clerk, talks to her a little while, he goes in the back, he comes back out, he said, I gave it to the judge. Well, I'll wait. He came out a little while later, and I was trying to I went outside to use my phone, and I was coming back in, and he met me in the foyer. And he said, the judge said he's not going to accept this. That he won't take anything that doesn't have a case number on it. Well, I don't care what the judge said. You need to talk to the magistrate back there. I didn't give this to the judge, I gave it to the magistrate. And as a magistrate, he has no power to deny a complaint against the public official. Well, the judge is not going to accept it. The judge already got it. And he tossed it down in the corner. He said, you're going to have to find some other remedy. Just so happens I got one. I took out my cell phone and he started to say, you can't use that in here. And I turned it where he could see it and dial 911. Oops. He clammed up and split. And I couldn't get out. The phone wouldn't work. So that's why I went out and talked to the bailiffs and asked them to go in there and arrest the judge. It's not the first time I bushwhacked a judge. I had great fun bushwhacking judges criminal complaints. this goes to the process. Once you've got the complaint written up, and this is how I do complaints, can you bring up Cherokee County on the jurisprudence website? I was arrested in Cherokee County for filing a criminal complaint with the grand jury against the judge. And the judge I filed against had me prosecuted for operating a private investigating business without a license because I told him I was an investigative journalist. It was absolutely ludicrous. And being the smart guy I am, and I know all this law and all these maneuvers, I represented myself. And I did such a good job, I got the jury to throw the book at me. Never represent yourself. The smarter you think you are, the more you need somebody else. Once they threw me in jail, I wrote up a set of criminal complaints. Let's go to documents and research. To criminal complaints. Don't look right. I just rearranged the size a little bit. Click. Go back and click complaints. There it is. That's the right one. Yeah. Arresting officer. Okay. This may not be the right one. In here, I have an affidavit. And this affidavit goes down through everything that happened. But when I was writing this affidavit, I knew that I would be going into the affidavit and capturing pieces of it out and dropping it into a criminal complaint. You open up, okay, that's good. In Texas, they have a special form for criminal complaints. It always must run in the name and under the authority of the state of Texas. And it must start with this paragraph. I being duly sworn, do upon my oath state, that has personal knowledge in it because I did at the time, but all it requires is I have reason to believe and do believe based on the following. Now, based on the following was my addition. Okay, then in this section, I put my claim. And then the bottom paragraph is always the same. Based on it, and I charge that heretofore and for the making and filing of this complaint, the one thing that will make a complaint unfixable is if you accuse them of doing something before they did it. So if I get the date wrong, and the date shows that I say they did it on this date, and instead of 2/21, I put 2/20 on it, can't fix it, goes in the trash. So on or before the making and filing of this complaint, on or before the day of, and I put the date I filed the complaint. In the county of, move that up a little bit. In the county of, whatever. In the county of, in the county in the state of Texas, you put whoever the defendant is, did then and there unlawfully violate section 1502 Texas Penal Code, titled Criminal Conspiracy Against Peace and Dignity of the State of Texas. The top paragraph and the bottom paragraph, the only thing that changes are the names and what the charge was. I go down my affidavit, and this portion in the middle, this, I grab it out of my affidavit and drop it in the complaint. I just cranked out about 40 criminal complaints in about 30 minutes. I know I'm going to do that when I write the criminal complaints, so in my affidavit, I say, on this day.
You talking about your affidavit of claim?
Do what?
You talking about your affidavit of claim?
No, I'm talking about criminal affidavit, statement of facts.
Okay.
Facts and law, that's all it is. On this day, this person did this thing in violation of this law.
Okay.
And then I have a methodology for doing documents. If anybody wants to see it, I'll send it to you.
Please.
It's a little too long to explain in this presentation, but when you write a legal document, use Microsoft Word's headings. You go up, okay, here we go. Click Home, Styles. In Styles, see heading 1, heading 2, heading. Word will always have a set of headings like this. If you use that heading to put a heading on every paragraph, Word will create a table of contents.
Yeah, that's true.
Go up and hit the View, Navigation pane. Oh, it's already up, okay. This is the pane you get when you do a spell check or a word search. Click that first icon. Oh no, that's not it. Click the third icon. Up top, up top.
All there.
That one. No, that's not it. Click the one in the middle. I want to click the first one. One's supposed to give me a table of contents. Oh, that's it. This one doesn't have, all your headings will come up here. The complaint I just filed had 135 pages. And that section scrolls right off the page. But every paragraph has a heading. Put a heading on the paragraph and make sure what you speak to stays within the context of that heading. When you write these large legal documents, it gets real complex. And we tend to be emotional when we do it. So we're writing and something else comes to mind and we veer off down this rabbit hole and that rabbit hole and the other. And the reader has no idea what the heck's going on. They get lost in all this. So put a heading on every paragraph. You can take them out later. I just had someone complain about that yesterday, that they wanted the lines numbered. Well, take out all the headings that line them up and put in line numbers if you want to. But I leave the headings in because the heading guides the reader. This is what I'm about to talk about. Tell them what you're going to tell them. And then tell them. So they have a frame of reference from which to read the paragraph. I will, if anybody wants it, send me an email, randy@rootoflawradio.com, and I'll send you a copy of that document. And you'll see, you go down through this thing, it's very easy to read, and it moves from one point to another without moving that, without jumping around all over the place and get lost. Okay? A heading on every paragraph is the best advice I can give anybody writing legal documents. Second best advice, write for a 13-year-old. If a 13-year-old can't read your document, understand it, throw it out, redo it. Have people read it and have them tell you every place you create a question in their mind that you don't answer immediately. If you create a question in the mind of the reader and you don't answer it, you've lost it. I'm here doing a seminar, and I have to make sure that I keep everybody's attention, because if I don't, I'll wind up with someone like Bonnie talking to somebody else and not listening to a word I say.
We're talking about liberty. It's all good.
I know, I'm just being a pain in the ear. But when you're writing, if you lose somebody, you create a question, you don't answer it, they're not going to understand what follows, because now they're going to be tripped out of mental flow. So have somebody else read it. I put mine on this Telegram site I have and ask them to rip it to shreds. Cut me no slack, give me no quarter. If I'm doing something wrong, I want you to tell me and not opposing counsel. But if you've built your timeline and then built your argument along the timeline, you're 2/3 of the way there. Now you go back and look at it in terms of how each of these circumstances go to criminal actions. Now, if there are crimes that I'm not going to pursue, if they look ugly, I put them in there anyway. But I don't write criminal complaints for them. So it's clear to the court that I'm not just trying to find everything to complain about that I can complain about. I keep my accusations leading one from the other. I'm going to accuse these guys of acting in concert and collusion. You're always going to want to go to somebody higher than the actor. To get to them, you need concert and collusion. So I want all of my steps to give a reasonable person of ordinary prudence reason to believe that all of these are connected together. Okay, last thing we do, once we have this all completed, then we create a statement of facts. You do statement of facts last. Statement of facts is an art form. You don't tell them every fact. You already know, you've already written out the main document, so you know where you're going to go with it. Now you go back and create a statement of facts that if a reasonable person of ordinary prudence were reading these facts, they would stitch them together in a way that matches your logic in writing the complaints. The last thing we will create is an introduction. But the statement of facts will follow the introduction. You don't know what to put in the introduction yet because you don't have all your facts in place. Once you've got all the facts in place, you'll go back and say, this is what I'm going to prove. And then you want them to read these facts in a way that a reasonable person reading these facts would stitch them together the way you're going to stitch them together when you get to the next part. If they come to the same logical conclusions that you come to in your argument, they're going to think you're pretty smart. They don't necessarily believe you in everything, but they will accept the logic and the structure of your complaints much better than if you do, that dirty rotten scoundrel did this, that, and the other, and be real disciplined here. Make all three of these pieces fit together. And then, in using this strategy, you have your first thing you do is you tell them essentially what you're going to tell them, and I like to use a cover document. And then I do this statement. And in the statement, I make the statements in the form of a criminal complaint. So you have either the jury or the judge read this whole statement. And then they pull out the criminal complaint, and when they read what's in the body of the criminal complaint, they'll recognize it from the statement. So you force them to read it a second time. If you have 2 or 3 different operators, I've got 10, and since I accused them of conspiracy and under criminal culpability, they're all culpable for the acts of the others, I do this 10 times. So the jury or the judge will read this same thing 10 times. By the 3rd time, he's got it memorized. It sticks in his brain. That's why we want it consistent. Now, I don't care if I ever get to a grand jury. Let's talk about grand juries a minute. Grand juries were absolutely the genius of our founders. The grand jury was put in place for the specific purpose of protecting the public from prosecuting attorneys. That was the reason. The case law about this says that a prosecutor's discretion can't be trusted because his zealousness in pursuing prosecution will taint his discretion. So they put a grand jury in between the public and the prosecutor. They actually put a magistrate in there first. The magistrate actually comes before the grand jury. You need neutral parties in between. And I have people in patriot movement says, oh, they stacked a grand jury, they can get a grand jury to do anything. Scalia said that any prosecutor worth his salt can get a ham sandwich indicted. And that's right, he can. The problem he has is keeping the ham sandwich from getting indicted. That's a whole other animal. I never care if my complaints go to a grand jury. I certainly never want a prosecutor indicted. Not my purpose. If that's your purpose, you're going to lose. You're either going to lose the case or you're going to lose here. All I want, I think of all my public officials like I do my grandkids. I love them dearly. But if one of them runs out the road, I'm fixing to tan his hide. I don't want my public official indicted. I want him to follow the law the way it's written. We could get rid of all the officials we got, replace them all to be in the same place. And we do that on a regular basis anyway. I want my officials to follow law. I mentioned earlier that I filed suit against Judge Sharon Keller, presiding judge of the Court of Criminal Appeals. Well, she should have recognized this. As in 2008, I put her and all 9 judges of the Court of Criminal Appeals in front of a grand jury. And they didn't get an examining trial. Had they had an opportunity to have an examining trial, they could have told their story.
Right.
But as it was, they had to have the grand jury consider complaints against them, with just my complaint. It was ugly. 119 pages. I really went after them. And it was over nitpicking crap. Just a tiny little thing. Well, I didn't get him indicted. But if you file a habeas corpus in the state of Texas with the Court of Criminal Appeals, they will not request a motion for leave to file. I was filing for a kid in the Republic of Texas. He had been in jail for a couple of months, lost his truck, lost his tools, his apartment, everything. And the president and the attorney general of the Republic of Texas group come to me and asked me if I could do something. So I wrote up this habeas corpus. Went down to Conroe, filed it with the clerk, and asked the clerk, are you going to give this to the judge or do I need to do that myself? And that's telling her that I know this is the habeas, the great writ. Everything stands down before the writ. So I don't care what they're doing. They stop and hear my writ. So I went and sat in the courtroom and they were having a murder trial. And they finished, interviewed a witness, sent all the witnesses out, the jury out, and everybody else, they said you can stay if you want to. And the judge said, are you Randall Kelton? Yes, Your Honor, I am. Did you file this habeas? Yes, Your Honor, as a matter of fact, I did. He said, are you an attorney? Oh, no, Judge. I sleep well at night and keep my hands in my own pockets. Thank you very much. And that was the first time I ever used that one. And the judge said, well, since you're not an attorney, I'm not going to accept this habeas. I turned to the bailiff. Mr. Bailiff, did you hear that? Yes, Mr. Kelton, I did. Arrest that judge. The bailiff said, I can't arrest the judge. Sure can. Just go over and throw the cuffs on him and drag him off to jail. And the judge sat there and kept his mouth shut. Because he knew that if I had the chutzpah to ask the bailiff to arrest him in his own courtroom, that I also knew what the law said. One word out of him, witness tampering, obstruction, both of them felonies. Because I'm making criminal accusations to the court security officer against him. So when the bailiff absolutely refused, the judge said, picked up the gavel and said, Mr. Bailiff, if Mr. Kelton doesn't leave my courtroom, you're to arrest him. I said, with all due respect, Your Honor, that's cheating. Maybe. He held it up, but I got the gavel. Yeah, good point. I pointed at the bailiff, you, come with me, and I stormed out of the courtroom. That was so much fun. If you have never done that, you got to once. So far, I've done it 7 times in court. And every time the judge sat there and kept his mouth shut. Except for in Belden, outside of Temple. He jumped up and said, clear the jury, 3 times in one period. Oh, it was a circus. So I took that habeas and took it to the Court of Criminal Appeals, and they asked for a motion for leave to file. I said, they don't have any, this is the great writ, the writ of right. They have no power to grant or deny leave. He said, well, I gotta have it or I can't accept the filing. I'm trying to get this kid out of jail. What am I fighting? So I filed a motion for leave to file. They denied it. Say what? So I filed with the grand jury, with the district attorney, accusing the 9 highest judges in Texas of denying me my right to file a habeas corpus. You know, they've been doing that for at least 25 years in Texas. Every single lawyer in Texas knew that was horribly wrong. But not one of them would dare say a word about it. Your lawyer is not on your side.
Oh, because they're all purple God.
They're terrified of the judges, and with good reason. Only one who could fix it was me. Why? I'm nobody. I'm not in there dangling by my bar card. And that taught me a valuable lesson. I thought, it took me a year to get that before a grand jury. When I filed it, they immediately let this kid out of jail. It took me a year to get it before a grand jury, and I thought it was the fact that I bushwhacked the highest level criminal district judge in Travis County, Bob Perkins, in his own courtroom with criminal complaints against the highest judges in Texas. Well, he looked at those, and I could see him. His whole career is passing before his eyes. I thought it was all the pressure I put. I came down with camera crews and interviewed outside the grand jury room, all kind of stuff. Turned out to be none of that. What it was, 25-year district attorney. He's retiring. He's a Democrat. They're all Republicans. You will never get them to be afraid of you. What you'll get them to be afraid of is a political cannon fodder you can create for their political enemies. Everything is political. So, I'm a little off point. Start out with a timeline, then once you have the timeline, then go and fill in all the blanks. Once you have that done, then go and extract all the claims. Now you have a very large, very consistently constructed documents. Use that statement and take the story that you wrote and turn it into a statement of facts. Take out all of your opinions, all of your arguments, and on this day they did this, and the doing of this had the effect of violating this statute. Just walk right down it and create complaints for each one. File them one at a time. Just pepper them with one after the other. When you first try to file the complaints, they're all going to try to divert you, stop you. They all slither up behind this thin blue line. Here's where we get to the good part. Here's where most of these rules I've been talking about really come in handy. Never ask a public official to do anything you actually want them to do. Because you never ask a public official to do anything that the law does not compel them to do. So you take your criminal complaint and you figure out who you want to hammer. Like in the school board thing. I would want to find the JP closest that's in the jurisdiction where the school is, and take this to the JP. That's why justices of the peace were originally created. In 1216 AD, the Dukes drugged King John down to the River Thames and threatened to cut his head off if he didn't sign the original Magna Carta. And in that Magna Carta, there was a requirement that if a police officer, a sheriff, arrests a free man for any purpose, any reason, he is to take him directly to the nearest magistrate and explain himself. And it's not because they didn't trust the police. They didn't want the public to fear the police. They didn't want the policeman to hold the key to the jailhouse door. That's been in law for 800 years. And it served us well until the mid-70s. We got a real stupid movie ruling in a Troy v. State, and they decided that we didn't have a right to examine the trial. And I argue, so what? The law commands you to hold one. I don't have a right to be arrested. I don't have a right to be thrown in jail. The law commands the police to do these things in certain circumstances. They also command them to take you directly to the nearest magistrate. So you go to the nearest magistrate, give him the complaint, and what the magistrate's going to say, oh, well, Mr. Kelton, you really need to take this to the sheriff's department or the police department. And I will say, oh, wow, well, thank you very much. And I'll go to the police department. And I'll file criminal charges against the magistrate for official oppression, failure to perform duty he's required to perform, and in the process denied being full and free access to and enjoyment of my right to the due course of the laws of the state of Texas. And if the sheriff's going to get that, then he's going to say, well, you really don't take this to the prosecuting attorney. No, prosecuting attorney don't have anything to do with this. Well, I'll take it to the district judge. You know, he generally puffs and puffs, but who cares? And the way you get it to the sheriff. If you go to a policing agency, they're not going to want to take your complaint. They're going to want you to fill out a voluntary statement. That's what I mentioned earlier in Dawson County. So you take that voluntary statement, oh yeah, you fill it out. And before you give it back to him, underneath it, you slide a verified criminal affidavit. I did that in Stephenville, handed it to the policeman, and he's reading it and he realizes something's behind it. Pulls it out, he said, what's this? Oh, that's a verified criminal affidavit. You have now been made known that a crime's been committed. Oh, I'm not accepting this. Sorry, Bubba. You touched it, you stick to it. He was furious. So I was throwing in the trash. I don't care what you do. You touched it, you're stuck. I'm trying to get him to arrest the county attorney. So they all slither up behind that thin blue line. At least we hope they do. Because you really want to get to Judge Hatch. Judge Nathan Hatch, the Chief Justice of the Supreme.
Right.
I filed a 151-page criminal complaint against the governor of the state of Texas for all of these executive orders. Filed it with the grand jury on the 8th of October. On the 9th of October, I sent it to Judge Hatch and asked him to hold an examining trial. Well, it was appropriate. I'm filing against the highest level executive officer in the state of Texas, and there's only one reason I can do that. I'm nobody. I am a citizen in a republic. Everybody answers to me personally. This is not a democracy. It is a democratic republic. In a democracy, everybody answers to the people. In a republic, everybody answers to the person. So that gives us top level standing. So I filed against the highest level official in the executive branch, and it was appropriate that I file it with the highest level magistrate of the state. 2.09 says, who are magistrates? First one, justices of the Supreme Court, judges of the Court of Criminal Appeals, district judges, county judges. Every judge in Texas is a magistrate. Mayors are magistrates. And city recorders are magistrates. They don't know that. They don't realize that. Not something I fight with, but they're all magistrates and they all have this duty. Well, he failed to perform the duty he is required to perform in the process of not being my right to petition the court for redress of grievance. That's a violation of 39.03 Texas Penal Codes, official oppression, a Class A misdemeanor. So I filed a criminal complaint against him with with Judge Keller. And she should have known, because I've done this to her before. They all stood 3 months wondering if their career was going to end tomorrow. They didn't have an opportunity to tell their side to the grand jury. They only had my complaint. And the grand jury got my complaints on their first day in office, held them to their last day in office. Their first day in office just happened to be April 1st. I didn't make any jokes about that. In this suit, I referenced that, and I put a sentence in there, I absolutely am not going to make any jokes about April 1st. So, she knew, she should have known better. But in her absolute arrogance, she thought she could do anything she wanted to. What they didn't realize is I was setting them up because I wanted to be able to bring all the officials in Wise County to Oscar. I want to sue them in their personal capacity outside their local neighborhood. And now, somebody in Wise County might think they're important, but Travis County, these two-bit podunk officials, they don't think much of it. So that was a setup to drag this thing down to Travis County. I'm hoping that when they read my complaint, that they realize that I played them like a cheap fiddle. Only I could do that. Only you can do that. You can play all these guys. They will not see it coming. That's basically how to think about it, how to maneuver. Once you start up the chain, it makes no difference how high in the chain they are. They're all under your authority. You're higher than all of them. And you don't have to listen to any of their heartfelt advice. And if any of them says one word that you can in any way interpret as a threat, oh, Mr. Kelton, you have to be careful. You start filing these criminal complaints, you can get in a lot of trouble. 911, you don't get to do that. And then the guy said, well, I wasn't threatening you. Doesn't matter what you thought, that's what I thought. You take me as you find me. If I feel threatened by your verbiage, you should have kept your mouth shut. Now you can explain it to a magistrate, and we'll see if we can get you before a grand jury. I don't really want it before a grand jury. Like my grandkids, I just want to adjust his behavior a little bit. And if you mention my name in Tarrant County, oh yeah, when it comes to me, at least they're adjusted. It happened over some BS. I was helping people stop foreclosures, and here we were helping people with evictions. Me and another fellow. This is Judge Hayes in Mansfield. Real arrogant, mean-spirited stinker. So David went up, they called him up first, and I walked up to the bar and just stood there. The judge looked up and finally said, can I help you? I said, yes, Your Honor. My name's Randy Kelton, and I have a hearing deficiency. Well, Mr. Kelton, what's wrong with your hearing? So, oh, Judge, I was down in Mexico the other day, and I drank too much of that cheap tequila, and I lost my hearing aid. And the judge said, well, why are you telling me this? I said, do you have a combination for the hearing impaired? No, I do not. You have a sound system here, will you turn it up? No, I will not. Well, then will you speak up? And he did, told the bailiff, by that sound, shut up. He said, throw me out of the courtroom. So I said, I'll shut up. Then they called me up. And he said, the judge started the hearing, and I said, objection. I'm here at arm's length to the court. I have a challenge subject matter jurisdiction before the court. Yes, Mr. Kelton, you just filed that 20 minutes ago. Yes, Your Honor, as a matter of fact, I did. He said, well, I'm going to deny that. So you're going to deny that without opposition or without reading it? You have my ruling. Yes, I do. We're done here. Slammed my folder shut, stood up, pointed at the bailiff. You, come with me. Marked out of the courtroom. Oh, that was fun. I get outside, this big old bailiff, about 6'6", had to be 400 pounds, just a bear of a man. He said, well, what can I do for you, Mr. Kelton? I need you to arrest the judge. Well, why did I arrest the judge? Class A misdemeanor, official oppression, criminal violation, 39.03 Penal Code, in that he failed to perform a duty he is required to perform, and denied me the full and free access to or enjoyment of a right. Well, Mr. Kelton, what right did he deny you in? He denied me in my right to accommodation under the Americans with Disabilities Act. And the bailiff said, well, Mr. Kelton, why didn't you tell the judge about the Americans with Disabilities Act? Well, hell, if I'd done that, he might have turned the sound up. The bailiff stood there a minute, and this grin come across his face. You set him up. Yeah, I did. He was a sucker for that one. I'd get in there and arrest him. Well, I can't arrest the judge. I said, sure can. Just go in there and tell the cuss on him and drag him off to jail. They got one down in the basement. Oh, no, Mr. Kelton, I can't arrest the judge. I said, look at you, big strapping officer. Got that pistol on your hip. You need to take your chicken suit off. And he said, I'll never take my chicken suit off.
Just do that.
2 days later, I was at a political rally. And I thought I recognized this bailiff when we walked in. He's doing security. Well, he found me in the pavilion. And he said, Mr. Kelton, are you busy right now? I said, no. He said, I have some people I would like you to meet. This was an education for me. So he takes me in this room, and on the way he's saying, these are bailiffs from around the county, and they do these gigs to make extra money. I walked in the room, and 2 or 3 of them I knew. And they all came over, shook my hand, hello, Mr. Kelton. And I'm thinking, what the heck is going on? The vitriol that come out of those bailiffs over those judges was amazing. They hated those judges. They stand in there and watch them screw one person after another, and they got to stand there and keep their mouth shut. They see people screwing up, and they know they're screwing up, and they got to stand there and can't tell them. And see these judges destroying one person after another. The bailiffs are not the enemy I thought they were.
So why don't you really arrest them when they're doing
Well, you're asking the bailiff to end his own career.
it? No, he's following,
That may not be right.
he's following the duty that he's supposed to do.
That's true. But he'll still end his career. It's our job.
You'd be amazed at how many people will actually put him back in there for the
I'm going to give that bailiff plausible deniability. Because I'm going to land on him like a ton of bricks. I didn't pursue this one because I had too many other issues. But it got around the county. If that accountant SOB comes into your office, watch out. He's just trying to get you to do something so he can try to get you arrested. That's true, I am. So don't screw with me. I need all of you like that. I need them to look at every one of you the same way. This problem will start going away. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Anybody got questions?
Yeah, doesn't the sheriff have authority in the county to arrest judges? I mean, anybody that walks in, including the President of the United States.
Yes.
So why not ask the sheriff then to go after these judges instead of the bailiffs?
It just depends on who I want to go after.
Okay.
I generally start at the bottom and walk them up the chain. When a sheriff's deputy fails to perform a duty he's required to perform, as far as I'm concerned, the sheriff did that.
Can we make a citizen's arrest?
You can, but not a good idea.
So how do you go after the sheriff if he's not performing his duty? How do you go after a sheriff if he's not performing his duty?
I'll bring charges against him. And, glad you mentioned that. PICO complaints. Somewhere in here I've don't remember where it's at right now. PICO complaint. Texas Commission on Law Enforcement. Every state has a commission that is charged with certifying peace officers, training and certifying peace officers. If you file a complaint with the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement, the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement will essentially get that thrown in the trash. But their insurance carrier won't. This is something I should have addressed earlier about lawyers and judges.
How do the insurance carriers find out?
If you file a professional conduct complaint against a peace officer, With TCO, you claim that the officer has been poorly trained because it's TCO's duty to properly train him. Well, TCO is going to get it and they're going to trash it. Because technically TCO has no real enforcement authority. And that's a good thing. The reason it's a good thing is their insurance carrier knows they're going to trash it. So how do they gauge their level of risk? By valid complaints? By the numbers. You got this bonding agent here. It's his job to charge his client as much as possible and avoid any risk. So if you are a peace officer, you get 6 professional conduct complaints. The bonding agent's coming to the agency and saying, okay, you got this guy here, he is an unacceptable risk. If you keep him, we'll raise your bond rating for the whole department. What do you think's going to happen to Joe Jackboot? Doesn't matter what the law is, doesn't matter what the politics is. He's a threat to the agency's bottom line. He's toast. And when they fire him, nobody else is going to hire him because he's a natural risk.
If I know that a police officer did something illegal to Glenn, can I, as a citizen, file a TCO complaint?
Absolutely. Anybody can file a TCO complaint.
Where do you file them at, and how does the insurance company
You,
find out?
you send it to the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement.
And they throw it away?
And on their website, they have a complaint form. If you send me an email, I have taken that form and turned it into an HTML document so you can fill it out, print it out. They really don't want you doing that because it really hurts them.
But how, okay, if they throw it in the trash, how does the insurance company find out?
Oh, they have to report it to their insurance company or they're not insured. The lawyer's the same way. You grieve a lawyer, they're going to throw, the bar's going to get it, throw it in the trash. And the errors and omissions carrier is going to double the malpractice insurance. Valid, invalid, they don't care. I had a lawyer tell me, that is patently unfair. And I was agreeing from ear to ear. I said, yeah, it is. And he said, I shouldn't have told you that. That's right, you should have. Because I subsequently found out that he was absolutely right. He had a friend who just got his bar card, got appointed as court-appointed counsel. His client disappeared. 11 months later, he asked the court to remove him from the case. The next month, the guy shows up, and he's pissed. He files a bar grievance against his lawyer for dumping him. They pulled his malpractice insurance. He couldn't practice. And the lawyer said, that was patently unfair. Yeah, life's tough, isn't it? Deal with it. So, lawyers, police officers, judges, judicial conduct complaints, valid, invalid, makes no difference. It puts a mark on their chart.
So do you need to get an oath of office and their bond, like with the judge? Can you walk in there and say,
Yeah,
I've got your public oath of office and I've got your bond. You need to obey the law.
yeah, so file a notice with the bond agency. You can file a claim with the bond agency.
You can't do that in Tarrant County though.
Pardon me?
You can't do that in Tarrant County. Tarrant County doesn't have a bond.
Then they're self-insured.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, this goes to how to set an official up to sue him in his personal capacity. Normally, you can't sue a judge because they have all this immunity. There's only 2 times they don't have immunity. One is when they're acting without subject matter jurisdiction, and 2 is when they're acting outside of scope. I sent a criminal complaint to Judge Nathan Hetch, Chief Justice of the Supreme, and invoked his duty as a magistrate. That is a duty from which he may not shield himself. He has a duty to convene an examining trial under 2.10 Texas Code of Criminal Procedure. He chose not to do that. He committed an act that had the effect of denying a citizen the right to petition the court for redress of grievance. That's a Class A misdemeanor in Texas. Criminal acts are not within the scope of any judge. So what keeps you in court when you sue a public official is not what you can prove. It is the nature of the claim that you make. I say Judge Hatch acted outside the scope of his authority. The opposing counsel is going to say, no he didn't, no he didn't. Makes no difference. They can't get summary judgment. Because there's a question before the court as to whether the judge acted outside of scope or not. That keeps you in court. That gets you to discovery, and that's a place they never want to go. That's beyond the scope of this. There's a lot more to have to go through, but there are no hanging fruit. They don't realize it. You can hammer them. I will be building some presentations that I'm putting online that go to all of these issues. I'm doing setting up some seminars. I want to set one up here. The first one's going to be in North Carolina. And it's a 2-day seminar where I go through all of this in detail.
If a judge acts without subject matter jurisdiction, and that's the trial, does it matter if he knew or not, whether or not he had subject matter jurisdiction at the time?
Absolutely it matters. Well, okay, let me say. It matters if he knew he didn't have subject matter jurisdiction. He had a duty to dismiss, to respond to it.
But if he didn't know, if he can say he didn't know.
It's imputed that he knows.
You're required to know.
Exactly.
That's his job.
Before you tell me I have to do something, you better darn well know you have authority to do that. You don't, then I presume you acted deliberately. You're not some pro se know nothing off the street. You're learning counsel.
All of our members are required to know the law.
And ignorance of the law is no excuse.
You're screwed if you don't.
And Randy, they don't.
The Scrooge Doctrine. 363 U.S. 91, I believe that's what it is. Just put in Scrooge v. U.S. At 109, it says that a private citizen cannot claim ignorance of the law as a defense to prosecution. Public officials held to a much higher standard. If a public
363 U.S. what?
91, I think. Just put down Scrooge v. U.S. That'll get you hit right on. It's a basic case. It's taught in all the law schools. 3 deputies, sheriff and 2 deputies in a beer joint in Mississippi, 1949, 45. They're upset at this black guy. They decide to go arrest him. The bartender tries to talk him out of it. They won't be dissuaded. They arrest him, wind up beating him to death on the courthouse steps. They're sued in the state, prosecuted in the state, then they're sued in the feds. And they whined in the feds that they didn't have notice that they could be sued in the feds as well as the state. And at 109 it says, if a public official violates a ruling of this court and he be sane, he may not be heard to say he knows not what he does. That means they must not only know the law, the statute, they must know the case law. No quarter. That was the case that reinvigorated the Ku Klux Klan Act, 18 U.S. Code 242. Every state in the Union has a statute that reflects 18 U.S. Code 242. It basically says, it's kind of long and convoluted, but I've been saying it all day under 39.03. If a public official exerts or purports to exert an authority he does not specifically have, and in the process denies a citizen full and free access to enjoyment of the rights, that's a crime in the Fed, and it's a crime in every state in the Union.
You have no idea how many times I've been in court, and the judge will look at the clerk and be like, I have no idea about what lottery you're talking about. I have no idea what they're talking about.
Did you file a judicial conduct complaint every time you did that?
Oh, my gosh.
And a criminal complaint, we have,
They have no idea. They
Walker.
have no idea.
Walker v. Packer. I haven't found this case anywhere else, but we got it in Texas. It says, a judge has no discretion in properly applying the law to the facts. A failure to do so is an abuse of discretion. In Texas, an abuse of discretion that has the effect of denying a citizen full and free access to or enjoyment of a right, well, that's a Class A misdemeanor. We filed in a case, the judge rendered a ruling, we asked the findings of fact and conclusions of law. The rules say that the judge shall produce findings of fact and conclusions of law within 20 days. If he fails to do so, you can file a notice of late filing and he's got 10 more days. So we filed it on the 21st day, we filed a notice of late filing, and we filed official oppression with the grand jury. I bet he didn't see that one coming. We can do this. Prosecutors can't do it, your lawyer can't do it, and if you have a lawyer has nothing to do with it. I suggest that people get lawyers and they'll show them how to handle lawyers. Lawyers are really low-hanging fruit. The last case I had in Austin, they dismissed the case to protect my lawyer from me. Because I told him, they appointed, I didn't ask them. They wanted me to have a lawyer because they knew who I was. And they wanted the lawyer to control me. So they appointed him, and we sit in this room, and he said, well, Mr. Kelton, these are how things are going to go. And he rattles on a while, and I said, no, hold on, that's not how they're going to go. Well, Mr. Kelton, how are they going to go then? This is how they're going to go. You're going to go to the judge and ask the judge to remove you from this case. And I'm going to go to the judge and tell him, don't you dare remove him from this case. He's my counsel of choice, and he's under contract. And they had appointed him, so he said, well, I'm not under contract with you, I'm under contract with the state. Yes, you are, but I'm the intended third-party beneficiary, and I have standing under the contract. And the judge will remove you from the case. And he said, yes, he will. Then I get to sue the judge for interfering with a private contract. And he sat back and looked at me with this look that said, you're going to get me disbarred. So I'm in court. I'm outside the bar. The judge, the prosecutor, and my lawyer are up at the bench. My lawyer comes out to me and says, Mr. Kelton, the prosecutor said she knows who you are, and if you start filing criminal charges, she's going to charge you with tampering with a government document. I looked out over there. She said that, did she? She said, yes, he did. Reached in my case, I pulled out 30. I got 30 criminal complaints here. They're all against security, courthouse security, DPS officers at the Capitol building. So I got 30 of them here. Get her over here. I need her to verify these criminal affidavits in accordance with her duty under Article 2.06 Code of Criminal Procedure. And I pointed at her, you, get over here. She scooched up against the bench. And then I handed them to my lawyer. He held up both hands with his palms out. I'm not going to touch him. I'm not going to touch him. Take him, you chicken shit. I stuffed him. Judge, bang, recess for lunch. Before I got my burrito, my lawyer called me, and he was ecstatic. The judge dismissed my case. First case he ever won. Dismissed my case to protect my lawyer from me. Once you get a lawyer, you got him by the testicles. He's dangling by his bar card. He is terrified of that judge. Going to court with a lawyer is like sitting at a four-sided chessboard. You sit at your table. Your counsel is to your right. Opposing counsel to your left, the judge across from you. You have a relationship with your counsel. Your counsel has a relationship with opposing counsel. Both of them have a relationship with the judge. If you can't get into that relationship, you're going to get screwed. So the first thing you do is you bar grieve the lawyer on the other side. And the lawyer on the other side is going to run to the lawyer on your side and whine and bellyache about it because it's going to double his malpractice insurance. And your lawyer's gonna come to you and ask you about it. Say, no. We can't talk about that. The bar tells me I can't talk to anybody about it, but I'm your lawyer, especially you. None of your business. Now, he's sitting there. This guy just bar grieved that guy. What's to keep him from bar grieving this guy? And what they generally tend to do is run to the judge and ask to be removed from the case. Great, we like that part. Then we go to the judge, and we tell the judge, this is my counsel of choice. He's under contract. Don't you dare let him withdraw from this case. And we've never had a judge get past that. They always turn to the counsel and say, counselor, you're going to have to find out a way to work this out with your client. Because the judge knows, if we know to do that, he knows that we know what the Constitution says about the government interfering with a private contract. And he's open for suit personally. Because that's an administrative act anyway. That's not adjudicated. So he's not covered for administrative act. We've never had one allow the lawyer to withdraw. Now you got the lawyer bound. This company, I won't say testicles again. But you got it. Now what's he going to do? He's going to go to the judge and count the lawyer on the other side and say, guys, you got to get out of here. This guy's going to ruin my career. You get inside that relationship. It works. It's all politics. A lot of everything to do with it. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Any other questions?
Good knowledge to know.
I had a question for you. Glenn and I went down to Tarrant County criminal building to look at all the different criminal cases, just going through it and trying to find a pattern of what's going on. We found out that there's never a criminal complaint that's properly done. There's indictments, but we couldn't find one that was properly even executed.
What you'll find in the record is an information. When a prosecuting attorney is given a criminal complaint, it's expected that non-lawyers prepare criminal complaints. So the criminal complaint itself, the form is not that the particular. They do require a criminal complaint to be in the form that I showed earlier, but if it's not, that doesn't disqualify the complaint. Only one thing disqualifies a complaint: you get the dates wrong. Everything else can be fixed. If there's something wrong with it.
The date's the only thing that in other words, they can screw up everything about it, as long as they have a date.
Yeah, they ask you to fix it. But if you get the dates wrong, then they toss it and have to redo it. But
They commented about subject matter jurisdiction. In a ruling by the Supreme Court, it said, where a court has jurisdiction, it has a right to decide any question which occurs in the cause, and whether its decision be correct or otherwise, its judgments until reversed are regarded as binding in every other court. But if it acts without authority, its judgments and orders are regarded as nullities. They're not voidable, but simply void and form no bar to a remedy sought in opposition to them, even prior to a reversal. They constitute no justification, and all persons concerned in executing such judgments or sentences are considered in law as trespassers. Does that mean that if I was convicted of something?
he had a case he's convicted, and the appellate court said that the trial court never had jurisdiction.
Subject matter?
I heard that and said, holy crap.
Which your subject matter first one? Which was?
The Court of Appeals just threw everybody under the bus.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter in law whether you knew what you were doing was illegal or not. If you intended the result of your action, that's what equates to culpability. Not whether you intended to violate the law. And especially public officials under Screw's doctrine, they have a duty to know. So they're all screwed. You got it. Great case. First I want to see the ruling, And then we need a timeline for the case. We need to build it out as if we're gonna go after, we're gonna file a suit against them. So we need a timeline first. And then from the timeline, we flesh out the story. Then we go through the story and pull out all the claims and causes of action. Once we have the claims and causes of action, then we create arguments in support of the claims, and then we go back to the statement, to the story, and turn it into points and authorities, or an argument in support.
There's so much.
Each step builds on the one before, so it makes it a lot easier. Yeah, it's a lot of work, but it gets a lot easier if you follow that process, because each one adds to the next. You know, and when you get in court, when you file documents in court, you file the document for the Court of Appeals, never for the trial court. So it's already set up for your appeal. So when they rule on it wrong, then you take that document, you dress it up a little bit, you file it as notice of intent to appeal. And then if they grant your notice to appeal, then you take the document, dress it up a little bit more, and file it as an appellate document. So each step steps up from the one before. It's not near as hard as it sounds. If you have not done this before and you don't have a methodology, it gets extremely difficult and complex. But once you got a methodology down, it's a whole lot easier.
But they want it that way, so you don't know, so you don't.
They want to keep you as dumb as they can so they can railroad the snot out of you.
Absolutely. So, that makes them low-hanging fruit. They're used to pro se's coming in there and not knowing what they're doing. They're not accustomed to being played like a cheap fiddle.
Yeah.
When you do that, what I'm trying to get them to do is make me a $10 million offer.
Yeah.
Would I sell out my morals? Yeah, put that check down there, Bubba. I'm not swallowing my risk. Then I'll take those funds and build tools for you guys. I have technology that I'm working on, where you can go in and fill out a questionnaire and it'll just spit out the
When
documents.
you file these criminal complaints, does it turn into funds? Does it turn into money when you sue them like that? Do they offer you, how does that work?
The attorney, most of them have a errors and omissions policy, generally about $1 million. And they're going to go to their errors and omissions carrier and say, make this guy a deal, make this go away. They're going to push the law firm, the insurance company, to pay a claim just to get rid of it, so they don't have to fight it. Yeah, they don't have to pay the money, they pay the insurance for it. And the insurance company wants it to go away because if they have to litigate it, it could cost them more litigating it than what they would pay, because every time you get a response from a lawyer, you walk through the lawyer. At least once or twice.
Okay.
If you are a pro se and the other side hires a lawyer, my co-host, he is hell on lawyers.
Right, who are you talking about?
He sent in an information request, and this lawyer responded. And he said, who the hell are you? I don't know you. You're not the custodian of the record. Well, I'm counsel for the custodian. Well, if the custodian hired you, go talk to the custodian. I'm not talking to you. Don't bother me. The next letter he gets from him, he bar grieves the lawyer and the whole law firm. The next letter he gets is from a different law firm. That was out of here. If both of you have lawyers, it's generally in their contract that you don't talk to the opposing side. You only talk to your lawyers. Well, you don't have a lawyer. You don't have that contract. You hadn't agreed to anything. If I sue somebody, I sue somebody. And I'm only going to talk to them. I'm not talking to Chuck Schuster. They'll lie to me anyway. Makes the lawyers crazy. They have zero control. Nothing to do.
You know, Randy, you could bar grieve if you have let's say a ticket with the city, they hire an outside law firm that represents the city, bar grieve them because they're interfering. You didn't hire them, they're interfering with your affairs, right?
Here's the deal about municipal lawyers. lawyers, if you're in the top 10%, then you'll get picked up by a law firm. They don't teach you how to practice law at law school. They teach you how to frame and argue legal issues. They don't tell you how to file motions, how to get them set for hearing, how to deal with this judge and this judge and this judge. What you do with this judge, you do it with that judge, he's likely to kick your behind. You don't know all this stuff. So you want to get picked up by a law firm, and they would teach you how all this works. Well, if you're not in the top 10%, and you don't get picked up by a law firm, what do? Well, you get on the attorney wheel, or you get appointed for court-appointed counsel. Then the judge and the prosecutor will teach you the ropes. You know, these guys all got their snouts in the same trough. They're all part of a fraternity, so they take care of each other. And that's not necessarily bad. That doesn't mean they're screwing you there. They're just showing this lawyer how to do things. They're going to show the lawyer to do things. They don't want him to get sued, so they're going to give him some good information. It's not all criminal. So they do try to bring him along. Or you get hired as a municipal lawyer. That's probably the bottom. Now, you know, if he's a municipal lawyer, he's not the sharpest knife in the drawer. If he was the sharpest knife in the drawer, he'd be out there making the big bucks, not down here at the municipal courts scrounging for dollars. So mostly they're gun lawyers. South Lake has the highest ticket per capita rate of any city in the state of Texas. It's 73%. The next highest is 42%. So I go down there with this guy that got a ticket, and they're having this cattle call, and he gets up to go talk to the lawyer, and I get up with him, and wait, you can't go in there. He said, Mr. Kelton, you can't go in there. I'd hammer up before. I said, sure I can. I'm his bud here. I'm his paralegal. And he said, oh no, only lawyers can go in there. I said, no. You need to check. He said, well, I'll get my sergeant. Sergeant tells me the same thing. So I asked, is the judge in the building? He said, well, no. Well, who summoned all these people here? Well, the court did. Under what authority did they summon these people? 28.01 Texas Code of Criminal Procedure lists all of those things a judge can order you to come to court for. There are 11 of them. 10 of them are to hear motions or pleadings before the court of various different kinds. The 11th one is for an arraignment. An arraignment. 26.01 says, an arraignment may be held in the matter of a felony or a misdemeanor punishable by imprisonment. Why the legislature excluded Class C misdemeanors, I have no idea. But if you're ordered to come to court for an arraignment or a pretrial hearing in a Class C misdemeanor, that falls under 32.46 Penal Code, simulating a legal process. They wrote that statute for the Republic of Texas. There are two statutes, 3240, or three of them, 3246, 7, and 8, were written specifically to stop the Republic of Texas from filing liens against public officials. And I get to take those statutes and cram them right up their behinds. These guys trying to produce a common law court, if you summon anybody, that's what 3246 is for. They'll come and get you for it. So, I take that same one. If they summon you for a reason that it's excluded in law, same thing. We get to go after them. This young lawyer, her first day on the job, I filed 58 felony charges against her. Welcome to the deep end of the pool.
You would have to find a white zone.
municipal court then?
We have the power to take this back.
Randy, you said something about bar grieving the entire law firm.
Yeah.
How do you do that? Why is it that they're
What
involved?
the standards of professional conduct say is that other lawyers, if they know a lawyer's doing something improper, they're required, the other members of the law firm are required to correct that lawyer. And he didn't do it.
So if a lawyer was involved in trespass, what's when you don't tell a magistrate that you know a crime has been committed? Trespass, felony of trespass?
When you give notice of a crime,
No, when somebody commits a crime, you're supposed to go to a
that's 38.151. But that, well, actually,
if you don't tell, if you witness a crime and don't tell a magistrate that you saw a crime being committed, that's
only,
misprison of felony.
that's 38.
That's 18 U.S.C. 4.
No, no, no.
It's misprison of felony.
That's misprison.
Misprison of felony, and the state statute, I think it's 31.171 or 172.
Well, if a lawyer
But
knows that
it-
a felony's been committed and he doesn't do anything about it, I'm required.
It's different.
Oh, really?
Okay, if you have knowledge that a felony's been committed where there was serious bodily injury, you must report that or it's a class A misdemeanor. But that's the only time you're required to. A lawyer, he's a quasi-public official.
That's right.
He is absolutely required to report.
Hey, Randy, why can't you go after that law firm that represents the state, ask you to come in for a pre-trial when they can only come in, can only require for motions and arraignments? You walk up there, there's no trial today, it's a pre-trial. Why can't you go after them to waste your time?
I do, I file criminally against them.
There you go.
And when they commit that criminal act, they're acting outside of scope. They have no immunity.
Can you ask the bailiff to arrest that prosecutor for
Just
wasting
about
my
all the
time?
time. I do that as a matter of course. The bailiff never does, and I tell the bailiff, you know, life is filled with little decisions. We all get to make some. Are you going to perform your duty as prescribed by Article 2.13 Texas Code of Criminal Procedure? Or are you going to shield this public official from prosecution in violation of 3805? And that one's a felony, guys. Your call.
He's also not actually, he can't represent the state either. Only the county attorney and the district attorney can represent the state. A law firm can't do it.
Well, the law firm can be hired by a municipality to represent the municipality in a violation of the city ordinance. Now, this gets into an area we're challenging. The legislature is authorized to write law, and they're authorized to create courts as they need them. But they have authorized municipalities to write, and counties to write ordinances. You ever wondered why they call them ordinances and not laws? It's because the Constitution only authorizes the legislature to write laws. So these are ordinances.
City ordinances only apply to city employees.
Right.
Yeah, it only applies to either city employees or people in contractual privity with the city wherein they have agreed to abide by the ordinances. If they apply it to anyone else, then it's a law, and that would render it unconstitutional. We have a pleading just for that, if anybody wants it.
Isn't that like smoking 15 feet outside the door of the city ordinance?
Yeah, they can wipe their behind with city ordinances.
It doesn't mean nothing to a private person, but most people don't understand it. They think it's law, it's not
Yes.
law.
This is what we're trying to fix. It's not enough to know that it's wrong. You need to know how to go after it.
They're conspiring, they're all working together. The judge, the prosecutor, they're all conspiring.
Yeah,
against you.
but-
They already know that.
Yeah, for the most part, it's not what I call a malicious intentional conspiracy. It's just, they're doing what they're trained to do. And,
Boss doing, they're doing what the boss tells them to do.
yeah, and
Yeah.
for the most part, these are otherwise good, right-minded people. I had a friend who was a JP, and he was a Baptist minister. I never held that against him. But I believe, I believe Mark Autry would do what he believed was right if it hurted the Pope. And when I sat down with him and showed him everything you're doing is illegal, he said, Mr. Kelton, are you telling me that what I've been doing for 20 years as a police officer, and then 13 years as a justice of the peace, and what everybody else in Texas has been doing for the last 30 years is wrong, and you're right? Don't ask me, Mark. I didn't write the code. I just read it. Here it is. It's absolutely abundantly clear. He could not wrap his head around the fact that what he had been doing in good faith his entire career could be wrong.
You'd be amazed at how many police have the same problem.
Yeah, they believe they're right. I know at least 100 policemen. I don't know a single one who became a policeman so he could be a Jack Ruby Bell.
You know, you wonder about the Texas Transportation Code. You would think a police officer might want to just be curious about reading a little bit of it, you know?
No, they absolutely believe
And
that
they
it applies
don't
to
like it.
everybody,
Yeah,
not
but
commercial.
I tell them.
It has nothing to do
take
with
10
just
minutes,
commercial.
just look through it a little bit and you'll see what I'm talking about.
You gotta understand what you're asking the policeman to do.
Because their ignorance
Face-
gets them protection.
He's gonna
Your
have,
ignorance puts you in jail.
he's gonna have to face the fact that what he's been doing his whole career is wrong. And this cognitive dissonance, it's just, you can't get over it. So I have, what I was having you help me with, is I told the county that I'm fixing to unleash a legal firestorm on you. You are not going to do it. We're going through the records and pulling out every instance of an arrest. And then we look in the record and see if there's an order issued under 16.17 Code of Criminal Procedure. If there's not one in there, I charge the police officer with first-degree felony aggravated assault, criminal violation 2202B2A, Texas Penal Code. It says if a public official exerts or purports to exert an authority doesn't have, and in the process commits, denies a citizen full and free access to or enjoyment of a right, that's a classic misdemeanor. But if he commits a simple assault, offensive speech, offensive touching, and he does so while prominently displaying a deadly weapon, that's a second-degree felony.
And he has to touch you.
What's that?
Aggravated assault,
What number is that? Texas?
2202,
Texas.
Texas. Unless he is a public official acting under the color or pretense of an official capacity, in which case it's a felony of the first degree. If you had a peace officer in Tarrant County turn his lights on you, that's first degree felony aggravated assault.
Yep,
Right out of the book.
I tried to tell him that.
So we're filing a first degree felony aggravated assault claim against each officer, a T-code complaint against each officer, a bar grievance against each lawyer that represented one of the clients, a bar grievance against the prosecutor, a criminal complaint against the prosecutor, a internal affairs complaint.
Hold on. I need a list of all of those,
Um,
and I will work really
you will
hard
need
to
a
help
list.
you.
I have
Put mine
them.
together at least.
I have them all in a set of merged documents.
Oh, perfect.
I take the spreadsheet, put the information in and all of them, hit the button and poof, spits them all out. I just filed 45 in the county I live in, 35 bar grievances. I didn't have the bar numbers for all of the lawyers. So I'm looking up the bar numbers. And one of them, I couldn't find a bar number, so I ran his name, and I got 3 names. One lawyer in Decatur, where this was out of, one in Fort Worth, and one in Dallas. So I said, my goodness, which one must it be? I think the one in Fort Worth. And sometimes serendipity steps in. There's this ex-peace officer who came to me, they were trying to fire him. And we took on the Texas Ranger, who happens to now be the sheriff. We kicked his behind. The guy was off work for a year with full pay and I had hired back. He was here. He was the one I was picking on about being kind. Well, his son was having legal problems. And he was talking to the lawyer and mentioned my name and said the lawyer went ballistic. That's no me. He filed a bar grievance against me and it wasn't even my client. And I got tickled. I said, is that Hyatt? Yeah, how did you know? Oh yeah, I did that on purpose. So it was sometimes serendipity. I would never know that he called this other lawyer and just furious because he got it, the bar grievance is going to stay on his record. So you bar grieve these lawyers, they go ballistic. But I fought 35 of them and not one of them called. My number was there, but not one of them dared call me because the bar forbids them to. So you bar grieve a lawyer, it's like you go into court and you're behind your table, he's behind his, and before court starts, you go over, you kick him right square in his professional pants. And he's got to stand there and act like he didn't do it.
Not singing soprano.
We just had one, I've got a telegram site. They're looking for good information. Go to the Law Society, Randy Kelton. That's my telegram site. He filed a bar grievance against the lawyer, and the lawyer filed in a pleading, because he sued the lawyer. And in his answer, he said, he filed a bar grievance against me, and the bar didn't find any wrongdoing. He used that as a defense. I said, man, did you grieve him for that? You should ask the judge for sanctions. Once you get this down, everything they do wrong that used to frustrate you and anger you, you start saying, yes, oh yeah, you're going to pay for that. It makes this a lot easier. Any other questions?
Can you get sanctions if you bar grieve someone and they feel like it's not justifiable, that it was frivolous?
Absolutely not. That's why the lawyer's forbidden to mention it to anyone. This is it's like filing a criminal complaint. You become a protected class.
So you don't come down that way either. If the DA says, you're wasting my time, this is not.
I bar grieved a lawyer for parting his hair on the left. And
That's reasonable.
The bar grievance guy, the bar got it and said, send me a letter, said, we examined into your accusation, find this does not rise to the level of misconduct. Who cares? If anyone says anything to me about that I can in any way take as a threat, or if anyone says something to me at all about it that I didn't tell, I bar grieve the lawyer. Nobody's supposed to know about this. And if he says, well, the bar sanctioned me and published it, I'll say, oh, well, I'm sorry, I'm sure when you tell the bar that, they won't sanction you again. So if they sanction you, everybody knows about it. So I bar grieve him, and there's really no grounds for it. Oh, I'm sorry, my bad. It stays on his record anyway. This is one of those places they have no defense.
So when you bar grieved a lawyer and they wrote back and said it didn't rise to a level of misconduct, the insurance company still got notice that you bar grieved them?
If they don't notice the insurance company, and what the contracts say, if they have any reason to believe that there could possibly be a claim against them, they have to notice. If they don't notice, they get sued, they're not covered.
Yeah. They're liable for the lawsuit, not the insurance company.
It's just not fair. Or babies, I'll feel for you. I just can't quite reach you. I've tried to find all the stinking, rotten, low-down, dirty tricks that we can find to use against them, because that's what they do to us.
Every day.
Any other questions?
Here's my question. Glenn, like I said, I went down to Tarrant County, the criminal building. We went through a lot of different cases, and there's not one examination trial that we could find.
I know.
Now, but by doing that, technically there's some subject matter jurisdiction.
right? Tarrant, Denton, Fort Wayne, Dallas.
Parker.
I haven't looked at Parker. I've messed with Parker a time or two.
Does it
but-
matter if there's an indictment?
No. There had to be an arrest. If there was an arrest, the code commands the arresting officer to take the person directly to the nearest magistrate. And the magistrate's commanded to hold an examining trial, and what 16.17 says.
I've got it right here.
Where you go?
It says, after it's right there. After the examining trial, go ahead, I'll leave it up to you.
After the examined trial has been had, the judge shall make an order committing the defendant to the jail of the proper county, discharging him or admitting him to bail as the law and the facts of the case may require. Failure of the judge to make or enter an order within 48 hours after the examining trial has been completed operates as a finding of no probable cause, and the accused shall be discharged.
How they getting away
Bring
with
up
that?
1730.
How are they getting away with not doing them all these times? Why, how can they not do them and not have, how can they not do them for the last 20 years?
And no one ever,
And still
nobody
charge
stops.
people?
Good question.
What the hell are they doing?
They haven't been doing them for more than 20 years. It's been close
Why
to
do you have a goddamn
35.
statute on the
What
books?
the hell are you?
You're not gonna enforce against people that are accused of a crime.
They take them
Obviously,
straight
they're not
to jail.
volunteering to be accused of a crime. They're being dragged into court illegally.
Well, what the hell are you?
Well, I'm just saying.
Well, I like
What's the
your
goddamn
attitude. I don't
statute?
see
What's the
that.
statute for? You're not
Let's
the
go
listener.
I'm not picking on you, I'm saying, this is.
We like that.
This is
We
bullshit.
hadn't got pissed off with that.
Well, no, I'm pissed off. Now I see the goddamn statute that says that's what they got to do. They're not doing it.
Yep.
It's 1730.
They've been
They
doing it
rest
for a
of
while.
us.
They never do it.
They never do.
This is why-
Well, they
They
said
went
we-
straight
they
to
got-
jail.
What the hell do you have a statute for? Well, the statute said you can't spit on the pavement under pain of misdemeanor. They'd arrest you for that statute.
Yeah.
But the statute that says they got to drag you in front of an examining trial immediately upon being arrested, so you can be charged or not within 48 hours, isn't being followed.
Exactly.
And that's where
What they're
Brandon-
saying.
What the hell?
Hold on,
It's
what they're
terrible.
saying is they
Let's kick
have,
their ass.
Let's kick their ass.
Okay, 17.30. The magistrate before whom an examination has taken place upon a criminal accusation shall certify all the proceedings had before him, as well as where he discharges, holds to bail, or commits, or in transit, or commits. That goes from 1617. Okay. Okay. See, okay, and transmit them sealed up to the court before which the defendant may be tried, writing his name across the seal in the envelope. Nowhere else in Texas law is anything required by statute to be sealed. This protects the chain of evidence between the magistrate and the court. But it commands the voluntary statement of the defendant, the testimony, the bail bonds, and every other proceeding in the case shall be thus delivered to the clerk of the proper court. So if I look in the records of the clerk of the proper court and I don't see that record, there was no examining trial.
Randy, explain why they think they're getting away with not having to do that examining trial.
They think they're doing what's right. They're doing
No,
what
but
they were
explain
trained.
how they think they are doing it.
It's-
With the Supreme Court and the case that they're using, and
It's what Mark said.
what you sent me, and what I'm reading, and the, how they're, when you get arrested, what they do is they take you to the jail, and then they wait 24 to 48 hours, and then you go before a judge, and that judge supposedly is the magistrate that sets your bond.
So that's your examining trial.
That's their examining trial.
Okay.
But that's not an examining trial.
No, it's not.
That's what they're calling an examining trial.
Exactly, exactly.
It's 14,
We're lost.
I need 1406 up. 1406 is the one that commands the officer to take the person to a magistrate. Well, they added something to it recently.
Right, there you go.
That said that the magistrate shall
1967 they added.
immediately issue the warnings in 15.17. Well, the warnings in 15.17 are only required when a person has been arrested out of county. So what they've done is taken that to mean that you can completely ignore 1406, 15.17, and Chapter 16. You can just ignore all of those.
If you're within the county.
even if you're in the.
So
county.
this is what this document she's looking at is about.
If you're arrested within your own county, you can ignore all that stuff? They
That's
can-
what they're
That's-
saying, is even
that's-
in your own
that's
county,
part
they
of
can ignore it.
Well, I'm just asking.
They're treating you as if you were arrested out of county.
Yeah, even though you're in the county.
And that argument is in here. Exactly that. So this is for the purpose of fixing that. That document she has is the culmination of 30 years of research.
So where's that?
And
You have it.
I'll send it to you, just tell me what your email address is, I'll send it to you right now.
Okay, Doug Hines.
Could you send it to me too, please?
Sure.
Yeah.
Aggravated assault.
No, they got.
Because I did it, see, I go on
You just gotta
Telegram.
get instructed for
Yeah.
He put this on his Telegram thing, and I found it, and I was like, and I printed it off, and so I'm reading it. And
Yeah, I know,
sometimes
dude.
they go,
The
like, trying to-
Court of Appeals threw everybody on the bus. Now, we fix them all
Every
over.
step that they do is a violation of your rights.
Yeah, so I like to email it all myself, and then I can print it off.
Everything they do.
Do you want to take a private link to your copy?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm just gonna send it forward.
Everything they do.
I just put my name.
We're gonna take a